It's a business and professional referral marketing platform that helps people create. I started it in 1985, and we now have 11,300 groups in more than 75 countries around the world. I think the key is in understanding that whatever event you go to, look to find a nugget, something that you can take back and use in some way. So I may go to an event that's 2 or 3 days long.
Okay.
And I try and sit in on as many of the presentations as I can about topics that I think are really relevant to me. And you got to take notes. Don't leave the booth.
Yeah, you're right.
If you need to leave, have at least 2 people staffing a booth, so that if one of you has to leave, or one of you wants to go see a presentation, or one needs to use the facilities, always have one person at the booth. There's nothing more frustrating than going to a booth, particularly, if I'm trying to do photographs with every vendor, and I go to a booth and there's nobody there.
Te voy a platicar un poquito de nuestra empresa Sega. En Sega nos dedicamos al diseño e instalación de stands para exposiciones. Es la mejor opción que puedes conseguir para diseñar e instalar tu stand en eventos que tengas en todo México, y no solo eso, también empezamos con algunos proyectos en Estados Unidos. Te invito a que ingreses a sega.com.mx, te repito la página, sega.com.mx, déjanos tus datos y te vamos a asesorar de la mejor manera para que participes de forma exitosa en tu exposición, en tu congreso, en tu convención, y rescates la mayor cantidad de valor de esa participación. Ingresa a sega.com.mx y déjanos tus datos.
Hola, ¿qué tal? Bienvenido a Mundo Expo, el podcast donde platicamos con todas aquellas personas que de una u otra manera están involucrados en el mundo de la industria de reuniones. Me refiero a ferias, exposiciones, congresos, convenciones, todo este tipo de eventos que tanto nos apasionan. Y el día de hoy estamos de manteles largos porque tenemos ni más ni menos que al fundador de la organización de networking de referencias más importante a nivel mundial. Me refiero al doctor Ivan Misner. Bienvenido, doctor Ivan Misner. Él es el presidente y el fundador de BNI a nivel internacional, una organización que está cumpliendo ya 40 años de existencia, y ahorita vamos a platicar de lleno sobre todo ello. Doctor Ivan, how are you?
Very good. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you for your time, and thank you for having this opportunity with Mundo Expo and you. Ivan, I want to ask you something that is a little bit different of the main topics of this interview. How did you become a magician, an amateur magician? Please tell me.
Yeah, well, the key word is amateur.
Amateur, yeah.
I'm not a professional magician, but I was a member of the Academy of Magical Arts in Los Angeles, which is part of the Magic Castle.
Whoa.
I did it because my kids loved magic, and so I started buying. Actually, I bought really cheap magic tricks at a little toy store.
Okay.
And I did like 4 or 5 of them, and my kids were like, "Oh, that's amazing! That's amazing!" And so there was a magic shop, probably about 5 or 10 in my house. Over the years, I just started gathering a lot of magic and decided to apply for the Magic Castle, the Academy of Magical Arts, where you have to actually audition. You can't just pay a membership and be a member. Well, you can if you're a social member, but if you're a magician member, you have to audition. And I got to tell you, I'd rather stand up and speak in front of 3,000 people than audition in front of 2 or 3 professional magicians, which is what I had to do. And
really?
I actually had to audition for in front of 2 or 3 professional magicians. But you couldn't use gimmicked tricks. You had to do sleight of hand. And so I had 2 or 3, maybe 4 sleight of hand tricks that I was able to do. And they accepted me as a member, which was amazing. And I was a member for about 15 years before I left, moved out of California. And then I ended my membership because I wasn't living there anymore.
Okay, okay, very interesting. It's a thing that I didn't think that you would do the magic for.
Yeah, it's a little unusual, but it was
Yeah.
a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. And the Magic Castle, if anybody ever has a chance to go to the Magic Castle, which is in Hollywood, I would urge you to do so. You do need to find a member because you can't go to the Magic Castle unless you have a pass.
Okay.
So you find somebody who's a member. And usually, if you call the Magic Castle and you say, hey, is there a member that can give me a pass? They'll do that.
Okay.
So you can't just walk in or you can't just set an appointment. You actually have to have a pass from a member in order to go to the Magic Castle.
So if somebody wants to go to the Magic Castle, you have to find somebody who is a member. All right. Now, Dr. Ivan, please tell us your professional path. I mean, how did you started BNI? And please tell.
You froze on me.
Oh, you're ready now. Please tell our audience how did you start BNI? What is BNI about? There are so many people who sees Mundo Expo and maybe don't know what BNI is about.
Well, BNI is a business and professional referral marketing platform that helps people create network and create referrals throughout their professional career. I started BNI in 1985. We're celebrating our 40th anniversary in the organization this year. I started it in 1985, and we now have 11,300 groups in more than 75 countries around the world. And what we do is we take one person per professional classification, and we have weekly meetings, and we pass referrals. Last year, we passed 16 million referrals worldwide and generated 25 billion. That's billion with a B. 25 billion in what we call thank you for closed business, which is the amount of business generated between members, which is really our goal, is to generate business for members.
Yeah. We had at Monterrey here in Mexico last April last year, the National Congress of BNI Mexico, and it was very interesting to meet so many people from all around the country, and even we had some people from our, outside Mexico participating in our congresses, and it's amazing to see how these connections produce new business and a new relationship. What do you think about the importance of meeting in person to make that kind of connections?
Well, I mean, the world's changing, and when COVID hit, we transitioned from in person to online, but now we have predominantly gone back to in person. The majority of our groups meet in person. Some still meet online, and some are hybrid, where they meet once a month in person and the rest of the month online. But I think, I'm old school. I think meeting in person is still very important. It's really different to be able to, look somebody in the three-dimensional eyes and shake their hand and have a conversation in person. So the majority of our groups have gone back to meeting in person. But the technology is improving at such a rate that, as time goes on, I think the online platform is going to continue to be more and more important. I mean, when I look here, you're in Mexico, I'm in Texas in the US, and we're talking real time online. When I started BNI, a year into BNI, so like 1986, the second largest line item in my budget was the telephone bill.
Really?
Wow. Telephone bill. Yeah. Salaries were number one. Telephone bill was number two in 1986.
Impressive.
So to call from one part of the same state in the US to another part of the same state was very expensive. To call a different state was really expensive. And to call another country was incredibly expensive.
Yeah.
And so it was, phone bills were really high. And I had to have an 800 number, which is really rare now, where people could call me for free. But now, you can call almost anywhere in a country with your telephone. You can call almost anywhere in your country for free.
Yeah.
So I don't even know where the phone bill is in our budgets today. It's such a small number.
Yeah.
So technology has flattened the communication hierarchy. It's enabled us to communicate in a way that we could never do when I started BNI, and in a way that allows us to have interviews like this,
Yeah.
which we could never do when I started BNI.
Yeah, and at the same time, the importance of being in person is this interview couldn't be possible if our friend Laura Lazaran, who we say hello to her, didn't meet you at the International Congress of BNI, at the World Congress at Hawaii. So this combination is very interesting. The capability of being in person and then make virtual connections it's beautiful.
Yeah, I think the combination is a very effective way to network today. Who knows where we'll be, 10 years from now? But today, I really believe that combination is still very important.
Yeah. And you told us that the BNI was started at 1985. So this year you will be making the 40th anniversary of BNI.
Yeah, this is the 40th anniversary.
Congratulations!
I'm Thank you.
And
thank you. I had a BNI member. About a year or so ago say to me, it's such an honor to be part of an organization that's almost 40 years old.
Yeah.
And the founder is still alive. I'm like, yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. I'm glad that I'm still alive too.
Yeah. So this year, what kind of activities are you going to have because of this anniversary? Anything in particular, or business as usual?
We have our international convention in Sydney, Australia, and of course, many regions all around the world are celebrating the 40th anniversary. We had international networking in February, which of course we recognized our 40th anniversary. So regions all around the world are recognizing it. We'll have a big celebration at our convention in Sydney, Australia in November, where we'll have several thousand BNI members from around the world. I love going to international conventions because it's like going to a United Nations meeting where all the countries love each other. And that's just, it's incredible to see all these countries and all these flags and accents and languages all being spoken at this one convention where everyone is there to support and help each other.
How many people assist to an international congress? Do you know how many?
Well, conventions vary. It's from, anywhere from 2,000 to 3,000 people show up at a convention, depending on where it is.
Yeah.
Presently, the organization has 326,000 members worldwide. Currently, yeah.
Okay. And I want to talk about the different kind of events that you have been participating at, not only the BNI convention, but do you remember your first Congress or this kind of event that you have participated in your life?
Well, yeah, I remember our first conference was literally 10 directors, myself, and my late wife. So there were 12 of us at the first event. That now we have, 2,000 to 3,000.
Yeah.
But the first one had 12. So, we've come a long way. We've come a long way over the years.
Yeah. It's been a long way, as you can say. And I want to talk about your speaker experience in other events. Do you remember some experiences that you have had talking in other events, not BNI events, but do you remember some of them?
Well, there's many, and I have done hundreds, if not thousands, of speeches around the world. Probably thousands of speeches around the world. I think what a lot of people find interesting is that, when I'm going up to speak to a decent sized audience, a couple of hundred people or more. I still feel a little bit nervous. I still get nervous before I go up and
That's
speak,
good. That's
which
good.
it surprises people. But I think it is good to be a little bit nervous because that gets the adrenaline going. And
Yeah.
if you're too complacent before you go up and speak, you just kind of basically talk like this. But if you're a little bit nervous, you get a little bit excited and you use that adrenaline to your benefit to really do your best. And so I have found that when I speak at events, a little bit of nervousness is a good thing. You just have to channel that nervousness. And I've spoken to many organizations, including BNI. I do find that public speaking to a lot of business organizations is a little bit mercenary. They hire you to come in, you do your thing, you leave. I love speaking at BNI events because BNI members just love seeing you there, and they love to see me there. And I'll spend sometimes 2 hours taking photographs of people.
Yeah. In fact, you were at Nuevo Vallarta some weeks ago, right?
Yeah, Puerto Vallarta. Yeah.
Yeah. How was that event? I wanted to go there, but unfortunately, my agenda didn't go
I was
well.
looking for you. I was wondering where you were.
Yeah. I couldn't make the trip to Nuevo Vallarta. I would be happy to be there, but
Yeah. It was
talk us
good.
about
It
that.
was good. I was there. I did a meeting with Corporate Connections people,
Yeah.
which is an affiliate of BNI's. And then I did a larger meeting with over 100 BNI members in Puerto Vallarta. And then I was there also for a meeting of the Transformational Leadership Council, which is an organization that was started by Jack Canfield, who wrote Chicken Soup for the Soul. And so I was also there. So I was there for the better part of a week doing all of those events. It went well. The members had great questions. The interesting thing is when you speak in a country with a different language, if you don't have a simultaneous translator, then you've got this, you say a few words, then they say a few words, you say a few words, then they say a few words. It's hard to tell stories that way.
Yeah.
But, I've learned to do it over the years. And there was a good translator there in Mexico when I did the consecutive translation.
Yes, you need a good translation because if not, there is some things missing in the translation and also the timing. But
The timing, well, that's a good point. I learned that when you do simultaneous translation, and if you have humor, if you have a story with humor in it, that you have to pause longer.
Yeah, you're right.
Because you do the story with the joke or the humor, and you get a wave of laughter for people who speak your language.
Yes.
But then you got to wait a couple of seconds
You're right.
for the second wave of laughter that comes from the people that are hearing the translation. So I learned years ago that you wait longer if you're telling a funny story. I also learned whether you have a good translator or not. I learned how to determine whether you have a good translator or not. Would you like to know the secret to that?
Please tell me.
So first, I usually have a PowerPoint that I use, and my PowerPoint doesn't have a lot of words. It's mostly photographs.
Okay.
And for me, a PowerPoint slide is like a character in my presentation.
Okay.
But it'll have notes in it, and I'll give it to the translator so they can see my notes in advance. But here's what I say to them, and their answer will determine how quickly I speak.
Okay.
The question I ask is, if I go too fast, I want you to have someone, because they're usually in a translation booth.
Yes.
I say, if I go too fast, I want you to have someone outside the translation booth who waves at me and tells me to slow down. And if they say, yes, I'll have somebody do that, then I know they're not that good a translator. But if they say to me, which happens a lot, they'll say, yeah, don't worry about that. I'll keep up with you. It's okay. Especially if they've seen my general notes and they have an idea of what I'm going to say. If they say, no, it won't be a problem, then I know I have a good translator.
Yeah.
And I speak at this speed, like you and I are talking right now. I'll speak at this speed. Whereas if I have a translator who says no, I'll have someone slow you down, then I speak a little bit slower like this so that they can translate.
Yeah, it's a good hack. I remember another hack that remembers me another hack that I don't remember if Metallica or other musicians group or another rock band has a trick that when they go to another country to make a concert, they in their the writer the list of things that they want to be done. There is a thing that they ask for M&Ms in a bowl without the brown M&Ms. So if
that was Van Halen.
Oh, Van Halen. Yeah. You're right.
Yeah.
If they go to the M&M bowl and there is brown M&Ms, they know that maybe some problems in in the rest of it.
Well, yeah, the whole thing behind that was, people thought they were, like prima donnas because they'd have this thing in their contract that said no brown M&Ms. We want a bowl of M&Ms in the green room, but there cannot be any brown M&Ms in there. And so people thought, oh, these guys are just,
crazy.
They're full of themselves. Yeah, they're prima donnas. But there was a really good reason for it, which didn't come out until years later. Reason was that if they walked into the green room and there were no brown M&Ms, they knew that the people putting on the event had read the contract, and the contract had some very specific things about the way they wanted their equipment set up.
Yes.
And so if they read no brown M&Ms, they could feel pretty confident that
Yes, you're right, that they read all the contract
properly. And that's the hack. And it's a brilliant hack for making sure people read their contract.
Yes. I agree with you. It's a good hack. So as you with the translation people. Ivan, please tell us about other kind of events. We at Mundo Expo talk about exhibitions where there are some area with big booths for the companies that make the jobs there. Do you remember some events where you saw some kind of these exhibitions?
Well, I mean, yes, almost every major event's got trade show booths. And I'll tell you the thing with the trade show booths, and if you're listening to this and you're a speaker on stage, it's really important to go visit every booth.
Yeah.
And if you're a speaker, especially if you're a keynote speaker and people have an idea who you are, you want to visit every single booth and offer to have a photograph with them.
Okay.
With their camera. And, there might be a professional camera there as well. But you tell them, bring out your camera. Let's do a photo together.
Okay.
It really makes the vendors feel welcome when you go from booth to booth to booth. And my challenge when I go to a BNI convention is everybody's stopping me for a photo.
Yeah.
But when I do the vendor booths, I really try to go to vendor booth, and so I usually have a small security team, and they'll say, let him hit all the booths, and then we'll do photos with individuals. And so I always try to make sure and do a photo with the vendors, and depending on the kind of product they have, I'll usually, I'll say, give me one of your products. I'll hold it up.
Oh, really? Well.
Oh yeah, I'll hold the product,
and they're very happy about it.
And then they use it, and it's got their backdrop. I always take the photos with the vendors with their backdrop in the back.
Yeah.
So you've got their sign, their product.
Yeah.
If someone gives me a gift, and I get lots and lots of gifts,
sure.
I always hold the gift when we do the photos. It's little itty bitty things like that make a big difference in how people feel about you visiting them in their booth.
You're right. It's they feel welcome, as you say.
Yeah, they feel like you care.
Yeah.
And I do care.
Yeah.
But it's easy to care and not show it in certain ways. And this is a really effective way to show it. Is you go to the booth, you do a photo, you hold up their product, you thank them, you shake. I mean, every convention, I shake every vendor booth's hand. I shake their hands. I do a photo. I think it's very important.
Yeah,
And then
right.
when that's all done, then I'll stand in a corner somewhere with the BNI banner or the organization banner, and I'll stand there and take photos for an hour or two.
Yeah.
And I have people who come up to me and they say, "Oh man, I can't believe that you're standing here for 2 hours taking photos." And I tell them, "Look, I could be digging ditches. This is way easier
Yeah.
than digging. When I was in college, I remember I jackhammered a parking lot once.
Oh, really?
It was just a job that I had, and I was jackhammering. So I mean, I think back, I could be jackhammering a parking lot.
Yeah.
That's not fun.
No.
But standing and taking photos, yeah, it's
very
easy.
fun.
Yeah, it's not a big deal.
Fun and easy, and you make connections as we talk about.
Yeah, I meet a lot of people.
Yeah. And do you think this is a very good advice for every event organizer? In fact, if they take the time to go to every booth and take the picture with the company that is making an effort to be there, it's a great advice.
Yeah, it's important. If you're the organizer, you want your speakers you want to talk to your speakers about, please, if you have some time, walk around and take photos with all of the vendors. Also, if you're an organizer, you want to make sure to have a banner somewhere that's well lit, that your keynote speakers can stand in front of and take photos with people that are at the event.
Yeah.
And it's more complex than it sounds, because you have to have a system. And generally the system really that works best is that you have people line up on your left. Okay. You bring them in, smile, take a photo, and then you may still be holding their hand, and you get them off to the right.
Yeah. Okay.
You bring the next one in, smile, take their photo, bring them off to the right. And so you sort of create a process and a system of taking photos. And then, if you're the keynote speaker, they're oftentimes giving you things. And so you need to have somebody there who can take them.
Yes.
So somebody gives me something, and thank you very much. I take the photo with them, and then hand that to my assistant, who has a big bag, who keeps all of the things. I mean, you just don't want to wing it. You want to be organized in the way you do conferences if you're a speaker.
No, and I understand you, because BNI itself is it's a concentration of many systems in it. So I'm not amazed that you said that you have a system even for taking photos.
Even for taking photos, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you're right. Ivan, please tell us about some exhibitions that has impacted you in the last year or last 2 years. After the COVID, there has been many efforts around the world to bring back this kind of events. Here in Mexico, we had maybe on 2021 the first events with people, and from then to now, there has been an increasing of events and people who go there. Which events have you visited these last 2 years that you want to talk us about?
Well, I mean, I go to many BNI events, and I get hired to speak for other organizations. But I think the key is in understanding that whatever event you go to, look to find a nugget, something that you can take back and use in some way. So I may go to an event that's 2 or 3 days long.
Okay.
And I try and sit in on as many of the presentations as I can about topics that I think are really relevant to me. And you got to take notes and write down the ideas that resonate with you. For example, I, for many years, have been a member of the Transformational Leadership Council,
Okay.
which was started by Jack Canfield, who wrote Chicken Soup for the Soul. And I would say in the last 20 years, almost every single, and they do 2 events a year, almost every single event I've gone to, I've gotten a nugget that I can take and use in BNI in some way.
Okay.
And that's the key in events, whether they're live or online, is to try and find the nuggets that you can take back and utilize. Because it adds up. You do 10 years of nuggets and you get a lot of content. 40 years of nuggets, you get a life history of nuggets.
Yeah. You're right. So
What happens is too many people, they go to meetings and they just sit through and they think, well, most of this was not useful to me. Yeah, but that's fine. But what was useful? Just find those 1, 2, 3, 4 things that were incredibly useful, write those down, and then do them, implement them, try them.
Mm-hmm.
That's really important. That's my opinion.
yeah. You're right. In every event, you can have some of these nuggets of information, of hacks that you that you will implement in your business or in your industry. Ivan, please tell us, what do you think about the companies that participate as exhibitors? What kind of good practices have you seen with somebody that attend a booth for 8 to 10 hours every day? Have you seen some things that you want to tell us about that we can use for our participation in exhibitions?
Yeah, my biggest gripe with booth vendors is don't leave the booth.
Yeah, you're right.
If you need to leave, have at least 2 people
Yeah.
staffing a booth, so that if one of you has to leave, or one of you wants to go see a presentation, or one needs to use the facilities, always have one person at the booth. There's nothing more frustrating than going to a booth, particularly, if I'm trying to do photographs with every vendor, and I go to a booth and there's nobody there.
Yeah, it's frustrating.
It is. And if you're trying to present your products, which you hope to sell, not being there when people are walking around is like taking out an advertisement in a magazine and leaving the page blank. Nobody there to answer questions or talk to people. So that's probably my biggest gripe. You also, the others are pretty basic. You want a booth that looks professional, that shows your product in the best light. I have found that generally speaking, people that have videos to show don't work as well unless there's something in particular you're going to show them. Here, come on over here, let me show you this. And then you show an aspect of your product or service that works. But if you're just running a video, a lot of people think, well, I'll just run a video that talks about my company. People don't pay attention to it. They'll walk right by. They'll glance at it.
It's like noise in
it's just white noise, yeah. So videos don't work unless there's something specific you want to. Let me turn on this video and show you this piece. But just running a video doesn't work really well. I wish it would, but it doesn't.
Okay.
So having people there, having your product shown, having some kind of giveaway that works. Some people have gone to some booths and they give away peanut M&Ms or little Snicker bars, or I don't eat sugar, so that doesn't draw me, but it draws a lot of people, and they'll go to the booth because they have this candy at the booth. And I think sometimes if you have a gift, a door prize, a drawing, You don't have to buy anything. Just put your card in the bowl, and we're going to do a drawing for one of our products at the end of the conference. I think that's a good technique to use. But more important than anything is have people there all the time, all the time. Never leave the booth empty.
Another thing that I remember is, I don't know if it has happened to you, but sometimes when you go to a booth or you see a booth, you see the people in their cell phone and not paying attention to the people who is arriving. What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, I think, look, if sometimes somebody's got to talk on the phone, that's fine, but make sure that there's somebody else that's not.
Yeah.
So, if you've got one person prepared to help people who walk by, that's fine if you have to take a call. But if you're there by yourself and you're on the phone, you might as well not even be there.
Or even worse.
Yeah, in some ways, because it's like you don't even care. You've got this booth here and you don't care to speak to me.
Yeah, you're right. And speaking about the BNI World Congress, I want you to talk about since when did you have it? Did you have done it? And in which cities around the world do you remember that has been done?
Well, the first conference, the one with 12 people, was in LA area. It was in San Dimas, California.
Okay.
But we've done them all around the world, so certainly all over the United States, Los Angeles, Long Beach. We did it in Long Beach many years.
Okay.
Madrid, Thailand, Singapore, Sydney. And of course, we have regional events, some big regional events in Mumbai.
Okay.
I did a big regional event in Mexico City once, a lot of BNI members in Mexico City. So we have both regional events for the country, national events for a country, and then we have our international conventions, which have been all over the world.
Yeah. It's impressive because you said it's 79 countries. Is that right?
About 75 or so.
Or so.
Yeah.
Plenty
definitely
of them.
Over 70.
Plenty of them, in fact. Please tell us about the importance of this kind of events, not only the BNI Congress, but congresses and conventions and fairs in general, to create valuable connections between people, not only customer and vendor, but professionals in an industry.
Yeah, I think the two key elements you've kind of hit. One is connections, making connections with people that you can use to do business with down the road, but also learning, education, lifelong learning. One of the things I've discovered is that there are certain countries around the world where conferences are very well attended, and other countries where they're not quite as well attended. And generally, the countries where they're well attended are countries that are developing nations that are really trying to build an entrepreneurial economy. And so you get a large percentage of the people showing up because they're like sponges and they want to learn more and more about how to run a business. Then you go to other countries that are oftentimes well established and they have a long history of entrepreneurism. And what's interesting is that many of the entrepreneurs there are not as engaged in the training because they're like, hey, we're good. Our country's doing well. We're fine. And so they become a little complacent.
Yes.
And complacency is, it's bad. So if you're coasting for very long, it's because you're going downhill. And what you want to be doing in your business is driving it forward, and you don't want to be coasting. And so I see some countries around the world that get that, and they're not coasting, and they're really engaged in lifelong learning and building their business. And it's oftentimes the countries that have been around for a long time, that have a long history of entrepreneurship, that have gotten a little complacent.
Yes.
And that's a mistake.
That's a big mistake, in fact.
Yeah.
And that's why we keep looking at people from outside, for example, the United States, that go to United States and start entrepreneurship there and there are people from India, from China, from many countries that maybe have that are that hungry to make their company big, right?
Correct. Absolutely. India and various Asian countries, and I'm seeing it more and more in Latin America,
Yeah.
where the countries are really trying to immerse and engage in a culture of learning, which only enhances their success.
Yeah. Ivan, before we stop this interview, please tell us about BNI. What kind of things do you want us to look to this year for your 40th anniversary, and how people can contact you?
Well, BNI, anyone that's interested in visiting a BNI chapter, go to bni.com and then go to the country that you're in to get information on local chapters. We have 11,300 chapters in more than 75 countries around the world. Last year, we passed 16 million referrals worldwide.
Wow.
We generated 25 billion. That's billion with a B, 25 billion US dollars worth of business for our members. It's what we call thank you for closed business. How much business our members pass to each other. And one of the things that I find amazing about that is that if you take a look at the United Nations estimates of GDP, gross domestic product, there are actually 100 countries in the world with a lower GDP than what BNI generated for its membership last year.
Wow, that's impressive.
That's amazing to
Yeah.
me. And it blows my mind. And it just shows me that, referral marketing, networking, groups like BNI are impacting local communities all around the world. When you're generating more business than 100 countries, GDP, then you're making a big difference around the world. And that's what BNI is doing. We're changing the way the world does business through our focus on referral marketing and givers gain.
Yeah, you're right. And for last, please send a message to Mexican BNI members that are looking for you right now, and people that hasn't been in BNI. What do you think the message should be for them?
Well, I'm really proud of BNI Mexico. You've come a long way in the last 10 years, and you're really hitting your stride in the country and building the membership. And that's going to do nothing but build your economy. And any developing nation, the way to build the economy is through small business.
Yeah.
And so that's what you're doing right there in Mexico. And every single time I've been there, I've been more and more impressed with the members and their commitment to building a referral-based business.
Thank you, Ivan, and you will be very welcome every time that you step on Mexico and any Mexican city. So it's an honor to have you here at Mundo Expo, and I will say goodbye to our friends. Muchas gracias por estar con nosotros el día de hoy en Mundo Expo, y no te olvides, nos vemos o nos escuchamos en el siguiente episodio. Hasta la próxima. Thank you, Dr. Ivan. It was great.
Yeah, thank you. My pleasure.
Thank you.
Sorry we had some technical difficulties.
No, sorry.
You'll do some editing.
Yeah. Don't worry. We will fix some way.
All right. And when this goes up on social media,
yes,
let my assistant know, and she'll put it on my social media platform.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. It will be great.
It'll be about a week later.
Yes,
because we schedule everything.
Don't worry.
But if you tell Dana, who I think you've been working with,
yes,
she'll schedule it to go up. And I've got, I don't know, 350,000 followers or so on Facebook.
No, it's great. I only have 2 English episodes. One is with you, and the other one was I recorded at Costa Rica with my friend Rich Curran. He's an owner of Expo Convention Contractors. He's at Florida, so I will tell him to see this this episode.
All right. Well,
thank you
so much. I'm glad we had the chance to do it, and I'm happy to do it anytime.
I'm an honor too. Thank you.
Thanks.